Anthill Design is a firm that we started in 2005. We are three partners, Sarosh Shanklasarya, Riyaz Tayyibji and myself, Riyaz Tayyibji. Our firm is largely concerned with building residential and institutional projects, though we've done a fair amount of commercial work, which includes SEZ development, post-disaster rehabilitation, and the work is across the country in large variety of contexts, landscapes, etc. The clients, Nayana and Deepak Desai, are very adamant followers of Satya Sai Baba. There was an existing house on the site, and initially there was talk of retrofitting it, changing it and modifying it. But when the proposal was made by us and sent to Satya Sai Baba, he actually renamed the house. He called it Sai Nayana, which is what we call it. Along with that, he gave 5 guidelines that the building must follow, which became our brief. The first point was that the building should be 5 steps above the main road. The second point was that the building should get lighter as it goes up. Now, if you are familiar with earthquake codes, this is also a very good way to build where earthquake, as Ahmedabad is zone 3. This also made sense to us. In order to make it lighter, also programmatically, it was the third point was that the satsang area, the gathering area, should be on top. And so that meant that the large span would be on top and so on. And the fourth point was that the building should be pink in color. And the fifth point was that the elevation should have an eye in it. This was symbolic of Sai Nayana. So the house is located in the central part of Ahmedabad. It's near on the western side of the river. It's located near the village of Ambawadi. It's part of an old housing scheme for employees of Bank of Baroda. These largely consist of twin houses which are on long sites which are oriented north-south. And there are several of these which are lined up together. As the plot that we were working with is actually a west-facing plot. This would be about 30 meters by about 9 meters, 8.5, 9 meters that would make the plot. So it's a long urban townhouse, so to say. The plot we had is west-facing. So we had the added challenge of how to deal with the heat coming in from that long side. So the main elevational exercise that we had to do came out of the fact that the building was going to be ground plus 2 levels, and we had to integrate the eye into it. The design of the staircase integrated with an opening into it was the device that we used in order to do this. What that allowed us to do was then look at the staircase as an element that connected across all 3 levels, and also allowed us to break up the elevation and facade of the building into areas that would cast shadow and protect the building from the west side heat. The staircase, because it kind of went up in different layers, allowed us to step the building back and create other pockets of shadow, which then we carved into to bring in light into the building. This was the main elevational strategy, which then structured the entire length of the west side, which is the main elevation of the building. So the ground floor plan is actually north-south long in that sense. There's a forecourt into which you enter, and there's a space for parking of cars. The plinth actually comes up and sits 5 steps up, so there are a set of steps which come up this way, and there's steps which take you up into the margin, which is all garden over here. You can enter through a main door here, and this is the main living room area, which has a set of folding doors which allow it to open up and sit onto this garden, which is all green and has plants and so on, so forth. This is where the staircase is, with the eye bringing in light into the center part of the house. So this is lit. This would normally have been the darkest part of the house. This of course gets light from here and here. So it's the eye window, as we call it, which brings in light here. It's a special window. So right in front of that is the picture of Satya Sai Baba, which is in some sense the puja space. The living room and this against this wall is a kind of informal sitting area with a part, and which is very common in Gujarati homes. A jhula here defines the living room space, but also allows for visual continuity. There's an open kitchen over here, which allows you to have a dining in this area. And then there's the grandparents' bedroom at the back, which has its own garden to the north. All of these areas, for example, the kitchen, we've utilized the margin space to accommodate things like utility and all, so that really the sense of the entire plot is pulled into the building in order to work better. So the first floor is designed both as a continuation of the house at the lower level, but also designed in case it needs to be used separately as an apartment by the son, but wants privacy in that. And in that sense, it works as a 2-bedroom apartment at this level, with 2 bedrooms at the north and south edge. The staircase brings you up to this level. And the kitchen and dining actually form the central part of this, and the staircase actually allows ventilation for the kitchen. It's a long, thin kitchen. We studied Glenn Murcutt's buildings in order to understand how those work for them, and they were quite pleased by the way that the layout works. The eye window allows for both a connection with a cutout here with the lower level, but also brings in light into, again, the darker parts of the house. At the uppermost level, actually the uppermost level is very unusual, because in order to make it lighter, we've constructed the entire house of that level of the house in wood. And this is all recycled wood from Alang, which was reused, and therefore makes a very light structure with a wooden frame and simple flush doors which have been articulated in order to fit into that system. Interestingly, the windows are cut out of the doors so that they use materials very efficiently. Again, there's a large room with a long toilet. Another room this side, bedroom, and the space in between is again a long kitchen and a dining space. So each level of the house can be used both as an independent apartment or can be used as part of one single joint family house. The idea is to allow for the imagination of a single house while also using it separately. Though the plan of the first floor and the second floor look similar, because of the wooden structure, the space that is here is completely different from the lower level. The quality of light, the kind of diffused luminosity of these spaces because of frosted glass makes one feel that it is a much lighter space, and this was part of the brief that was given to us. The size of the room here is much larger. It has the possibility of working as a private space but also as a large hall when the family does want to have gatherings for bhajans and other religious meetings. These are houses which are of the budget range of about 65 to 80 lakhs, and the built up area of this house is about 3,500 square feet in total. With a cost of that amount, really, if one is going to detail very carefully the building, the fees would be exorbitant, which doesn't work out for the nature of the client that we are dealing with, who have very stringent budgets. So what we decided to do in order to facilitate this was to take up some of the construction ourselves, to do it like a kind of design and build. And for that we started a workshop, and we actually took up material management, construction of the dry part of the building ourselves. So we sourced the wood from Alang, we brought it, we manufactured all the trussing and structural systems for the upper level, and including the doors and windows, which then of course gave us great control at a reasonable cost. For the same quality of workmanship and detailing, if we were to go through a contractor system, it would have been a much more expensive house. This also allowed us to offset the lower fee with earning something in the construction process, which made it financially viable for us to do the house to the level that we wanted to and were able to achieve. So in that sense, the entire lower 2 floors are designed by a structural engineer, and the upper lighter floor is really something that is done in a more informal manner, but is detailed by us and constructed by us to a very high degree of detail and craftsmanship. The material palette of the building really came out of the 4th point that was part of the brief, and that was the pink color of the building. And as I mentioned, we looked at paintings and we saw what are the other colors that we could use with the pink. And interestingly, greens and blues came up with pink, which are unusual kind of mixes that we used. And we started looking at the play of both synthetic pink, what you would get with pink paint, and let's say natural pinks that you would find in, say, slate stone or in, say, various types of natural materials. And this was what formed the play of the facade in terms of the material. What we did was we used the greenish blue kind of plaster to define a heavy base of the building, and then the pink color and then the wood on the upper level gave you a sense that the building was becoming lighter. So it followed that theme through the entire articulation of the building.